Hi everyone, it's me Gaming 2, and at last again, we are doing another animation studio ranking. Today, we are going to be ranking all the films from Blue Sky Animation Studios, who unfortunately are now a defunct company. And that's a bit sad because I think a grand majority of their movies are pretty good. But outside of like the top 4 or 5, they're nowhere near as good as the best of DreamWorks or Disney or Pixar or something like that. But in my opinion on Blue Sky overall, I think they are a very charming company. Outside of a couple, don't really have any terrible movies. But they don't have a ton of 10 out of 10 movies either. They have a couple that I'd say are damn close, but you'll find out about them once we get into like the top 3 or 4. But anyways, we have 13 films to rank today, and I think we should just get started. So, what is my least favorite Blue Sky Studios film? Hey, you know what? At least it's not Ice Age: The Adventures of Buck Wild. Well, it's not much better. Coming in at number 13, and my least favorite film from Blue Sky Animation Studio is Ice Age Collision Course. What can I say that hasn't already been said about this film? It is, well, until a couple of years ago, by far the worst Ice Age film. I think it's very, very cringeworthy. Most of the humor is very cringeworthy. I feel like Ice Age 2, 4, and this one were just about each of the characters. Oh, this character gets a love interest, and this is Sid's movie for him to get a love interest, and it's honestly very cringeworthy. Just like mostly everything else with this. I did feel a little bit of emotion where Manny's daughter Peaches felt more comforted by her boyfriend than Manny himself. Can I ask a question? I'm gonna ask this same question in, Ice Age Continental Drift. How in the name of hell did Peaches grow up so quick throughout this series? How many years went in between these films? Because I don't know how long a mammoth's lifespan is, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty long. Gosh, Manny has to be an old man at this point. Holy crap. But anyways, it's just, this film is really messy in general. Like, I don't know. I don't even really like the scrat scenes in this film. This is the first film in the series that I'd say the scrat scenes go on a little too far, honestly. So, just with a combination of everything, this is the worst thing I think Blue Sky Studios has ever released. Literally, the only time I ever watched this movie was on a flight to Toronto. Other than that, I have yet to see this film, and that was probably like 10 years ago or long. It was the year it came out, so 2014. I literally saw this film on the plane going to Toronto. So other than that, I have never seen this film before, so it's been such a long time, but I remember turning it off halfway through the flight, I'll be honest. Like, Rio 2... Really? Like, it's not as bad as Collision Course, I'll give you that, but this, in my opinion, might just be Blue Sky's most unnecessary film. Like, it adds nothing to the first film, in my opinion, except Blue and Jules, kids and stuff like that. I will admit, I still like the villain Nigel. He's always my favorite part of the Rio films, but I'm gonna be honest, I'm just not a huge fan of the Rio films in general. Speaking of which, not really a fan of the original Rio either, if I'll be honest. Number 11 is Rio. Like I said, I'm just not a huge fan of either of these movies. I think the single reason I will put the original over Rio 2 is just because I've seen it more often. I'm just not a huge fan of the characters, or... I mean, seeing Rio de Janeiro in animation form is absolutely beautiful and stuff like that, and I like the animation, but... I don't know. The Rio characters just don't click with me the way, like, the Peanuts movie or the Ice Age characters in, like, the first 3 movies do, or something like that. I don't know, I just don't get a huge connection with the characters, I guess you could say. Probably my biggest flaw with all the Rio movies, but I do probably prefer this over the second one just because I've seen it more than once. I've seen it about 2 or 3 times the year it came out, because I really liked the film when I was younger, but the older I get, the more I realize Rio is just okay. Epic has absolutely breathtaking visuals, in my opinion. This is probably visually my all-time favorite Blue Sky animation film. I just don't think the rest of the film really clicks with me that much. I think MK is an okay character, or Mary Catherine, who's the main protagonist. I find the snail characters to be alright too. For me, nothing really clicks with me, and I'll be honest, this would probably be dead last next to Ice Age Collision Course if it wasn't for the visuals, because I find the movie, quite frankly, to be pretty boring. But it's not a terrible film or anything, it's just I don't get a heck of a lot of substance from Epic. I think it's very... I'm gonna be honest, bland. I think it's a pretty bland movie. But it's not like I hate the movie or anything. Like I said, the visuals are some of Blue Sky Studios' all-time best, but the rest of the movie just doesn't click with me personally. Spider-Man and Keep My Wife's Name Out of Your Fucking Mouth star in a spy movie with pigeons. Listen, I like the first 10-15 minutes of this movie, but then it gets pretty freaking corny. But I really like that corniness overall. I think this is a very funny film. Spies in Disguise is Blue Sky Studios' absolute last film, and while I would say it's among their weaker films in my personal opinion, it still left a pretty funny impact for me overall. I like most of the characters, I like all the spy scenes. Sometimes the corniness gets a little too much, which is why I will say it is a little bit lower, and I honestly don't connect with the characters as much. I keep saying that. I don't connect with the characters as much as like the earlier Ice Age film or Robots or Peanuts movie or something like that. But I don't know. It's just... outside of those few movies, I feel like the Blue Sky characters feel very similar to each other, I guess you could say. So, with that said, Spies in Disguise is probably the first movie on this list that I would consider good. I had a fun time with it, but still wouldn't be a film I'd put on every day or something like that. We're finally back to another Ice Age movie. Coming in at number 8 is Ice Age Continental Drift. I like this one way more than Collision Course, but it's still way under the first 3 in my opinion. I think this is a little bit where Ice Age jumped the shark, honestly. The whole storyline of Manny being insecure with Peaches getting a boyfriend. Like I said in the Collision Course, I feel like Peaches grew up way too quickly in these. She was an infant at the end of Dawn of the Dinosaurs, and all of a sudden, well, I sounded like Sid the Sloth there. All of a sudden, she's a teenager? You couldn't have made Ice Age 4 where maybe she's, I don't know, a little kid going to school or something like that. It had to be, oh, she just grows right up to being a teenager. There's a huge time gap between 3 and 4, and it's a little jarring to me. That being said, I do like a grand majority of the characters in this movie. Sid's grandma, I think, is freaking hilarious. I love her character in that film. I'm not quite as big of a fan as Manny, Sid, and Diego in this film as some of the others. I like them more than I do in Collision Course, but, and Scrat is pretty funny in this film too, unlike Collision Course. So overall, I do like Continental Drift a fair amount. It's just nowhere near as good as the first Meltdown or Dawn of the Dinosaurs, in my opinion. My only time ever seeing Ferdinand, if I'm being brutally honest, was in Spanish class at the end of my junior year of high school. My Spanish teacher put this on, and it's fun. It's a very fun movie. My favorite joke in the movie is probably from the trailers and stuff like that, but it's when Ferdinand himself is going through a china shop, and it references basically a bull in a china shop. I find that pretty clever. But other than that, I find the movie pretty clever. Basically about a bull who doesn't want to do bullfighting and stuff like that. Has a pretty good message. John Cena, believe it or not, the WWE wrestler himself, actually plays the character pretty well. And yeah, I find this movie very charming. Some of the humor's a little bit cringe, and some of the story, I guess you could say, doesn't work with me, especially in the second half. I like the first half of the movie a lot more. I got a little bored with the movie towards the end, but Ferdinand, in my opinion, is still a very fun movie. Okay, now we're getting into the Blue Sky films I really like. Though you may be shocked to see this one this low. Coming in at number 6 is the Peanuts movie. Listen, I really love A Charlie Brown Christmas and stuff like that, but in general, I'm not a gargantuan fan of the Peanuts as a whole, so honestly, my problem with this film is literally that it just feels like a 90-minute Peanuts special, basically. I feel like this is the theatrical film of these characters. It should have had a little more substance to it and a little more stakes, I guess you could say, but no, it was a little more simple. I like that Charlie Brown finally got with the little red-haired girl and stuff like that, but I don't know, in my personal opinion, I just felt like this film could have had a little more to it, and I would have been more satisfied. I like the Peanuts characters in general. I like reading the comics especially, but they're not, I don't like adore these characters like some people do. But yeah, I like this movie fine. It's probably my favorite product from the Peanuts besides A Charlie Brown. I adore A Charlie Brown Christmas. That's one of my favorite Christmas movies of all time. But this film is charming, very fun, very innocent, but I just wish there was a little more to it. Alright, now we're getting on to the films that I love. I love all 5 of these films. I think these films are awesome. Until we get into about the top three, I wouldn't say they're quite on par with DreamWorks or Pixar's best, but Ice Age Dawn of the Dinosaurs is a very good time. That's why I would say most of the Ice Age franchise is actually pretty fun. Buck Wild excluding, which kind of made it more middle of the road, but I like most of the Ice Age films, and Dawn of the Dinosaurs is no exception. This film is a blast, especially the scenes with Sid and the T-Rex mother and the T-Rex kids. Those are comedy genius. Also the Scrat scenes with, I believe her name is Scrat, if I'm not mistaken. They're probably my favorite Scrat scenes behind the original Ice Age. It's just the Manny, Diego, Ellie story doesn't quite attach to me the way the Sid story and the Scrat story does. I still like it very much, and I think it's very cute with the birth of Peaches, but I don't know. I just feel like, oh, never mind. I kind of changed my mind, because Buck Wild, he is the best character in this movie, and he is what makes this movie, but I don't know, personally, I like the scenes with Sid and the dinosaurs and Scrat a little more, because I guess the character dynamics work a little more in those scenes for me personally, but Dawn of the Dinosaurs is an absolute blast. I don't have too much to complain about it. I still like the Diego, Ellie, and Manny scenes, but for me personally, Sid and Scrat are the highlights of this film. And yeah, I love this film. Fucking Big Weld. The man, the myth, the legend himself makes this movie a 10 out of 10. Okay, I'm just copying Shea Frilicis at this point. I am sorry, Shea Frilicis. I just had to make that joke because Big Weld is, in all seriousness, pretty awesome. But number 4 for me is Robots. I just think this film is freaking hilarious. Almost all of the jokes work. I like most of the characters. Rodney, who's the main character, played by Ewan McGregor, is my favorite. I love the designs of the robots and the robot worlds in this film. I think this film's strongest point, honestly, maybe along with the comedy, is its creativity. There's this one adult joke about the best part of making the baby is, or the best part of having a baby is making it, and they literally make him, like, actually building a robot and stuff like that, which I find clever. So, the best part of this film is by far the humor and the creativity, and it's the big reason why I love this film. I don't watch it too often, but this film is so freaking creative that I can acknowledge that it's a pretty damn good movie. Alright, number 3 is Ice Age the Meltdown. One of the very first movies I ever saw in the movie theater. I was 4 years old. I went and saw this movie with my mother, and I still love this movie to this day. This one is a very big childhood memory for me, so I have a lot of nostalgia for this movie maybe, but there's not a lot to dislike in this movie, honestly. I like the animation. The humor is very good. They actually play fart humor pretty well in this film. I like that this film has a bit of emotion like the first film. I don't really feel like you get that too much in the sequels from Dawn of the Dinosaurs onward, but the scenes with baby Ellie basically being abandoned and going with a possum family and stuff like that, and the fact that Manny basically has a crisis thinking he might be the only mammoth left on Earth, it tugs at your heartstrings. And that's what I love about this movie. It's the combination of the comedy and the combination of the heart. This film is definitely a little bit goofier than the first film, admittedly. But even the first film has some pretty goofy moments. But, Ice Age The Meltdown, I think, is an awesome movie. I think it's funny, it's charming, it's heartwarming, it's emotional. I love the dynamic between Manny, Sid, and Diego in this movie. Every character gets their moment to shine and stuff like that. And yeah, Ice Age The Meltdown is amazing in my opinion, but it's not quite in the top two. You want to know something? I'm actually a pretty big fan of the Dr. Seuss books adapted into movies. I absolutely adore How the Grinch Stole Christmas, genuinely, from 2000 with Jim Carrey. I genuinely love that film unironically. Ironically, I love The Cat in the Hat with Mike Myers. I think that film is absolutely hilarious, but it is a so bad it's good film. The Grinch from 2018, I'm not a huge fan of, honestly. And The Lorax, I find to be a pretty fun film, too. But it's not fantastic. You want to know what my favorite film... You want to know what my favorite Dr. Seuss film is? Jim Carrey's How the Grinch Stole Christmas. But my second favorite is Horton Hears a Who. I love this film. I think this film is absolutely hilarious. Pretty much all of the scenes hit in this film, but my favorite scene is the anime Horton scene. Oh my god, I remember when I was a little kid and I saw this movie in the theaters too, and the anime Horton scene played, I freaking was dying laughing. But I love the world of Horton Hears a Who brought to life and stuff like that. The scene with all the flower gardens and stuff like that, and the big field of flowers where Horton tries to find the speck. It's amazing, guys. The visuals with all the Who's too and the mayor and stuff like that are really cool. Katie, who goes, is an absolutely hilarious character. Guys, Horton Hears a Who is an absolute certified hood classic. Like, I love this film to death. However, there is only one Blue Sky film that I'd say is a perfect 10 out of 10 for me. I love Horton Hears a Who, but it's not quite a 10. It's more of a 9 for me. But what is a 10 is Ice Age. Coming in at my number 1 is the original Ice Age. This film is up there with Toy Story and Shrek for holding such a special place in my heart. And honestly, this film gets better every time I watch it. And I don't know how, because I've pretty much considered this a 10 out of 10 movie since I was a little kid. But the original Ice Age means, as a movie, maybe means... If it wasn't for Toy Story, I might consider this the animated movie that just means the most to me. It's been in pretty much my entire life. I remember watching this film when I was like 1 or 2 years old for the first time. It only came out when I was like 8 or 9 months old or something like that. So I was a little baby when it came out. But when this came out on VHS, I remember my mom and dad bought it for me. And I remember watching it. I have the memories of watching it when I was like 3 or 4 years old. But this movie means so much to me, and for good reason. All of the characters are super likable. You You think Manny's a little bit of a dingbat at first until you find out that pretty much his family was killed right in front of him by people, which is why he's very insecure of that baby and stuff like that. But then he comes to realize that not all people are bad, and I would put that scene from Ice Age on par with some of Pixar's most emotional moments. It makes me get misty-eyed every time I watch it. And the music, oh my god, the music in this film is incredible. It's a mix of fun and gut-wrenching emotion that just, oh my god, it makes you so freaking... I don't even know how to describe it. The Scrat scenes are fun. They're my favorite Scrat scenes in the series. They're more simple than the later films, but that's what works in its favor. Legitimately, there's very hilarious scenes. My favorite is when Diego calls Sid and Manny a cute couple. But, yeah. Ice Age is one of the most meaningful movies of all time, in my opinion. It's legitimately in my top 10 favorite animated movies of all time. I think the original Ice Age is a freaking masterpiece. I don't know if a lot of people would consider that, and maybe I love this movie more than most do, but I would legitimately put the original Ice Age on par with some of Pixar's best. I adore the original Ice Age, and it's just one of my all-time favorite animated movies, but in general, it's my favorite Blue Sky animation film. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed another animation ranking. I think Sony Pictures Animation is going to be next. I'm aiming to get that out by the end of 2024, if not sometime in early 2025, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Stay tuned for the Sony Animation video next, and more content to come, and that's about it. Gaming 2 here. See you later. Bye.